My mother-in-law looked at my pregnant belly in front of 450 people and said, "Even that baby can't save you." They all laughed. What they didn't know was this: I hadn't even started yet. My name is Claire Weston. Now I want you to picture everything I'm about to tell you. 450 people, crystal chandeliers, a ballroom where a night's worth of food is more expensive than most people earn in a year. And I, 8 months pregnant, standing in the middle of it all, while my mother-in-law points to my belly and laughs. "Even that baby won't save you," she said. The hall erupted in laughter. People gasped for breath, burst into giggles. The sounds echoed everywhere. I stood completely motionless. My hands didn't even tremble. My voice didn't crack. Because what none of them understood, what I'd been waiting for them to understand for months, was this: I wasn't trying to be saved. I'm waiting for the right time to strike them. But before all that, let me take you back in time. Because you need to understand exactly how we got to that ballroom. You need to feel everything I felt. Because no one could have predicted what I did afterward. Exactly 18 months ago, I was living the happiest time of my life. Daniel Weston, whom we both loved very much. He proposed to me in the coffee shop one Tuesday morning. There was no grand gesture, no crowd, just him, a ring, and the man I thought I knew perfectly well. I said yes, even before he finished his sentence. The only thing I didn't know was what kind of woman his mother would be. To her, I was nothing. Not my job, not my career, not my family. Daniel had decided that the moment he showed her my picture. "She looks ordinary," he had told her. Daniel told me this himself, laughing as if it were a funny story. Of course it wasn't funny. I didn't know why he reacted that way. I wondered if I hadn't known him well enough. At their first dinner at their Evanston estate, Margaret seated me at the far end of the table, next to her elderly uncle who spent most of the meal sleeping, far from Daniel and the conversation. She introduced me to her friends as Daniel's current girlfriend. We were already engaged. I smiled. I said nothing. I was still learning the battlefield. Over the next year, waves of atrocities. It came to that. Margaret would constantly call Daniel, whenever we were together, always an emergency, something that required his immediate attention. Once, at a charity dinner, she said to my face that Daniel deserved a woman from somewhere. She said it quietly between sips of wine, pretending her friends hadn't heard. Actually, everyone knew, but no one said a word. Daniel never defended me, not once. He would squeeze my hand under the table and then say, "That's the kind of person she is. She doesn't have bad intentions." And I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so much. Then some time passed, and I got pregnant. That's when everything started. I actually thought everything would change if she had a grandchild, but that wasn't the case at all. When I told Margaret, she looked at my belly like she looked at everything else, as if I were some unplanned ailment. "How long have you been pregnant?" she asked. 10 weeks, I said. She nodded once and continued looking at her phone. What was happening behind the scenes was far more than what I was experiencing now. Daniel was seeing someone. Her name was Vivienne Cole. She was Margaret's personal assistant, 26 years old, and had been in Daniel's life for almost our entire marriage. I found a way to learn things I should never have known. A receipt. The wrong jacket pocket. 3 hotel stays in 4 months. On dates, Daniel said he was traveling for business. I forced myself, and not a single tear came out. I needed to teach those who did this to me a lesson. And I needed to do what was necessary at the right time. I called my father. And this is the part I haven't told you about before. That dinner table, that charity dinner, something nobody in Weston's entire social circle knew. My father is Richard Callaway, and Richard Callaway is the founder of Callaway Tech, an $800 million enterprise software company headquartered in Chicago. I'm his only child. 4 months before my wedding, he transferred 51% of the company's shares to me. I never told Daniel. I never told anyone. I grew up watching how my father was exploited by people who wanted his money, but not him. I always distinguish between those who truly love me and those who love me for my power and my money. Margaret Weston didn't know. Daniel didn't know. Vivienne didn't know. But Mr. Harrison, my father's lawyer, knew everything. And when I was 7 months pregnant, with hotel receipts in hand, I called him from a parking lot at 11 p.m., and he answered on the second try. "Tell me what you need," he said. "Everything," I told him. "I need to know everything about the Westons." He changed everything the team uncovered in the next 3 weeks. Daniel's family company, Weston Capital, was losing money. Bad investments, over-leveraged real estate, a lawsuit they were hiding from shareholders. They were 15 months away from total collapse. And Daniel's father, Gregory, had recently offered Callaway Tech a partnership for my company. I'd kept that information to myself until now. I let it sink to my core. And slowly, my plan was forming in my head. Everyone would see who I was. It wasn't a desperate plan, of course. It was a plan that, if done cold and at the right time, would be explosive. And that's exactly what I was going to do, of course. The Westons were holding their annual fall gala, 450 guests, tuxedos, the biggest social event of the year. For years, they'd used it to show off their power, solidify their alliances, remind Chicago who the Westons were. I decided this would be their last gala, but I had to wait. Timing was everything. The moment had to be perfect. They had to be comfortable, arrogant, believe they'd already won. And then Margaret gave me exactly what I needed. 2 weeks before the gala, he arranged a family meeting. Daniel was sitting next to me on the sofa in the living room, staring at the floor. Margaret stood in the middle of the room. Vivienne was there too, by the fireplace, as if she belonged there, as if I were a guest. "We've decided," Margaret began, "that this arrangement isn't working." I looked at her. "Daniel and Vivienne are going to be together. This has been a long time coming." She said it casually, as if ordering food. "We want you to sign the divorce papers before the gala." Quietly. No fuss. "What about the baby?" I asked. My voice was completely calm. Then she said the words she thought would crush me. "We have lawyers who can handle custody. You'll make a deal. Enough to get you started over somewhere else." She tilted her head. "You're young. You'll be fine." I looked at Vivienne. I looked at Daniel. Then I looked at Margaret again. "I'll think about it," I said. She smiled with satisfaction. She thought she'd won. She had no idea what was going to happen. Luckily, the gala was only 2 weeks away. I was going to that ball, and I was going to change everything. I only had 14 days to do all this. No one could have imagined what was about to explode from the setup I'd created backstage. It was going to be worse than their worst nightmares. I slowly prepared for the gala night, thinking the preparations were complete. I didn't rush to get ready for the gala night. I wore white. Not a wedding dress white. Not a soft white either. A sharp, architectural white dress that made all the other colors in the room look tired. My hair was pulled back tightly, dark red lipstick, simple diamond earrings that belonged to my grandmother. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time and looked at the woman looking back at me. 8 months pregnant, completely alone, and quite ready. Mr. Harrison had texted me at 6 p.m. Everything was ready. I replied, "I'll be there at 8. The Weston ballroom was exactly as they wanted. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden light over Chicago's 450 most important people. A string quartet played in the corner. Waiters in white gloves carried champagne on silver trays. The Weston family name was engraved on every surface imaginable. I entered without anyone accompanying me. The atmosphere changed as soon as I stepped inside. People noticed my white dress. They noticed my pregnancy. They noticed I smiled. Margaret was the first to notice. She stood in the middle of the room, in her usual spot, as if she had been there all along, as if the room had been constructed later. Daniel was beside her. Vivienne was beside Daniel, wearing a green dress, her hand lightly resting on his arm. The three of them looked like a portrait commissioned by someone. I started walking toward them. Claire. Margaret's voice had that particular sharpness, polished on the surface, sharp underneath. I didn't think you'd be coming tonight. I couldn't miss it, I said. For a moment her waist narrowed. Then she smiled and turned slightly to the side, making sure everyone closest could hear. She always did this. She enjoyed everyone witnessing her strength. You know, she said, loud enough to be heard, I admire your determination. Really. She looked at the faces that turned towards us. Now she had everyone's attention. She enjoyed it very much. But darling, her eyes dropped to my stomach and she said, even that baby can't save you. All 450 people in the hall heard. At first, everyone fell silent and looked at us, but after a short while, everyone started laughing. Some smiled at their champagne glasses. Others simply watched with that special expression people wear when they are grateful that cruelty has been directed at someone else. I remained completely motionless and just watched. I waited for the laughter to stop. Let her think she won. I let her put on her show. It wasn't my turn yet. I took my phone out of my bag and called just one person. They answered on the first ring. Before I could say anything, she said, I'm ready. I looked at Margaret. I've been waiting a long time to show you something. The ballroom's presentation screen, the one the Weston family used each year for their charity auction slideshows, lit up behind me. The first thing that caught my eye was a document. Weston Capital's internal financial records. 14 months of catastrophic losses, the lawsuit they were hiding, the creditors they owed money to. Every number, every date, every signature. There was no longer a sound in the room. Daniel's father, Gregory Weston, emerged from the crowd near the bar. His face was the color of old paper. What is this? Turn it off. Sit down, Gregory, I said. My voice sounded rehearsed. Calm, definite. He stopped moving, and then the screen changed. Callaway Tech letterhead. A note from 3 weeks ago, formally rejecting Weston Capital's partnership offer. Signed by the board. Signed by the majority shareholder. C. Callaway Weston. Me. I watched the understanding on Margaret's face move in slow motion. First, confusion. Then the pieces came together. Then something I hadn't seen on her face in 18 months. Fear. Callaway Tech is my company, I said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. It has been for 6 months. Your offer of partnership to save Weston Capital was rejected this morning. Permanently. Daniel made a sound I'd never heard from him before. Something between a word and nothingness. The building where your flagship office is located, I continued, is owned by a subsidiary of Callaway Tech. Your lease termination notice was filed this afternoon. You have 30 days. I turned to Vivienne. The mutual fund that has been quietly holding your personal accounts liquid for the past 8 months. I saw the wording change. That's me too. It's frozen as of tonight. Margaret didn't move. The champagne was still in her hand. She hadn't let go. Her fingers were white. You told me to sign the divorce papers and disappear, I said, walking slowly toward her. You told me a settlement would be enough to start over. You stood in your living room with your son's mistress and told me my baby was a problem that needed to be managed. I came within 100 centimeters of you. For 18 months you didn't treat me humanely. In your home, at your dinner table, in front of your friends. I gestured towards the room. In front of these friends. There was complete silence in that ballroom. 450 people were there, and you could hear the string quartet had stopped playing. "I want you to understand something," I said. "I didn't come here tonight because I'm angry. I came here tonight because I'm ready. There's a difference." I turned to Daniel. I had never seen him like this before. All that comfortable self-confidence, that Weston armor, was gone. He looked like someone who had finally understood, albeit too late, exactly what he had lost. "Luna," I said. "That's what I'm going to name you. My mother's name." I stared at him steadily. "You'll never meet her. My lawyers will arrange everything." I turned to Margaret one last time. "You said even my baby couldn't save me." I let that hang in the air for a moment. You were right. I didn't need saving. I needed time. I took a bottle of champagne from the waiter carrying it and raised it to the 450 people in the room. Then I left. The following weeks were shrouded in that silence that follows a massive event. Weston Capital filed for bankruptcy protection 31 days later. The flagship office was emptied. Gregory resigned from all the boards he served before he was asked to leave. The story spread through Chicago's business world, as such stories do, with details that became more and more dramatic with each telling. But honestly, the truth needed no embellishment. Daniel called 7 times in the first week. I didn't answer even once. Margaret sent a letter through her lawyer. My lawyer sent it back unopened. Vivienne quietly disappeared. That's the characteristic of people who are attached to power. When the power is gone, they are somewhere else. Luna was born on a Thursday morning in March. She weighed 2.8 pounds. According to my father, who sat in the waiting room for 11 hours and cried when he finally held her in his arms, her eyes resembled mine, but her stubbornness was like my grandmother's. With my daughter in my arms, lying in that hospital bed, I thought of the woman in the white dress who walked alone into a ballroom. I thought of the cold meals I ate for 18 months, the somber silences, and the man who held my hand under the tables, but never once stood up for me. And I thought of what my father always told me as I grew up. Luna looked at me with those dark eyes. Luna looked at me with those dark eyes. "You will know your worth from day one," I told her. "No one can decide for you. No one." She winked. I guess she was pleased. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. If you also like stories where pain turns into strength, this channel is for you. Stay with us.